Hello YouTube, welcome to the channel. Now then, on today's video we are going to be looking at this. It's the brand new RC from JJRC. It's their new Q141A. There's a B Pro version of this as well, but today we're going to be looking at the A version, which is the brushed. Now this has very kindly been donated to the channel for review by Banggoods, so big thumbs up to Banggood, thank you very much. So without further ado, we're going to get this thing out of the box. Now, quick look round, it's 4-wheel drive, it's ready to run. I think you just got to put batteries in the controller basically. It's brushed, it's 1/16 scale. Anyway, enough waffle from me. Let's get this box cracked open and let's have a look inside. Right then, in the box we've got our instructions and parts manual. We've got a USB battery charger, a little Phillips screwdriver, some spare body clips and pins, and what looks to be either a front or a rear bumper. We've got our transmitter, which I'm going to say it looks very, very familiar, and I think I know what RC this is based on, but I'm not going to say anything at the moment. We've got steering trim, we've got throttle trim, we've got a steering reverse function on and off. We've got some sort of channel 3 on the body, and I'm not 100% sure what this switch does, but it might tell us in the instructions. Also, I like the way we've got a thumb operated steering wheel as well, which is cool. And this takes 3 AA batteries, which you have to supply. And last but not least, we've got the actual truck itself. Now this thing, I must admit, first impressions, looks really cool. I love this body style on it. I think it's sort of based on a side-by-side dune buggy, if you like. It does look really cool. We've got a wheelie bar at the back. There are a few things on it though that look very, very familiar, and I think I'm going to stick my neck out and I'm going to say this is actually based on a Eachine Gantry. Now, we actually tested that Gantry a couple of months back, and I wasn't overly impressed with it at the time, but since then the prices have come down and it's started becoming a bit more competitive now. But like I say, they do a B Pro version of this, which basically got all metal drivetrain and a brushless motor. But like I say, this is the brushed one. But I'm pretty sure that this is very, very similar to that Gantry. But anyway, let's whip the clothes off and have a look inside. Right then, underneath that gorgeous red body we've got a battery, and that is a 7.4 volt 1300 milliamp hour lithium ion unit with a Dean's connector on it. We've got a 390 brushed motor, and that plugs into a ESC stroke receiver, and into that ESC stroke receiver we've got a 5-wire micro steering servo plugged in. Now looking at this, I'm almost 100% convinced that this thing is in fact a Eachine Gantry with different clothes on, because that top brace I'm sure is exactly the same as on the Gantry. Like I say, I'm going to go through the parts book and we're going to cross-reference some of the parts, but I'm pretty sure that this is a Eachine truck with different clothes on. Incidentally, this is some weight in this body, but we've got a front set of lights under there, and a set of rear lights there that you can see on the camera, and we've got a set of lights down here as well, but I'm not 100% sure, because there's no gaps in this, how they actually shine through the body, but we'll plug a battery in and we'll find out. But like I say, ordinarily I'd do a teardown on this, but I'm almost 100% sure this is the same as a Eachine. So if you go to the Gantry video I did previously, watch the teardown for that. I'm sure it will be the same, but I'm going to double check for you. Right then, spot the difference. JJRC manual, Eachine manual. The ones at the top, the rapidly identical trucks. If we go down, turn it over, again the Conqueror, identical trucks. I think the only one that's different in the range is the Eachine has got the Gantry, and JJRC I've got this truck instead. So I think basically underneath they're identical, even down to the, like I say, the 2 buggies as well. Just got basically different graphics on the shells. Right, and inside the part books we've basically got the same numbers for the spares. 6053 for the transmitter, 6053 for the transmitter. We've got 6049 for the spare motor, 6049 for the spare motor. These 2 sets of trucks I'm pretty sure are made by the same manufacturer, so I think basically they're Eachine trucks badged up as JJRCs. So basically I'm not going to do a teardown on this thing. If you want to know what the underpinnings are like, go and watch the Gantry video. I'll leave a link in the description because it's basically identical. Anyway, let's get the battery charged up in this thing and let's take it for a rip. Right then, back inside, what do you think of JJRC's Q141 here? Now, before we go any further, I didn't bother doing a speed test on this thing because, well, for the same reason I didn't do a teardown, is because it's basically the same as a Gantry, and the Gantry did about 17 miles an hour, and I've no reason to doubt that this thing is approximately that sort of a ballpark area. So that's why I didn't get a speed test, is because I'm pretty sure it does the same as a Gantry. Right then, let's get into it. Let's have some pros and cons. Cons, I couldn't really think of anything I didn't really like about this thing, but there is one massive elephant in the room, and that is this suspension, or lack of it. This has pretty much got to be one of the worst suspended RCs I've tested in a long time. It handles like a pig on roller skates. It really does. It literally, the suspension is that bouncy, it literally just flops around and bounces wherever it wants to go. In some respects, it can be quite entertaining, but in others, the suspension is absolutely god awful, and the shell is quite top heavy, and couple this with really bouncy suspension, and this thing just literally, you can never quite tell where it's going to go. Now, they obviously do a pro version of this, which is brushless, and the pro version is super rapid. So, and it has the same suspension unit. So couple an RC that goes probably twice as quick with the same crappy handling, and it must be frightening, the pro version, to pilot around. But the suspension on this thing is absolutely god awful, and as a result, so is the handling. Right then, let's have some pros. Nothing broke, nothing fell off. So this seems quite a robust little RC, and to be honest, it has to be, because the handling causes it to roll and bounce and crash everywhere. So we did have quite a few crashes. We did hit quite a few trees. I did roll it a few times, and this thing survived. So from a robustness standpoint, seems pretty good. Next up, we've got the battery. The battery life is pretty good on this thing. I got I think it's about 20 minutes continuous running around our little track there. So you get a decent amount of battery time. I think they do a battery deal on these, or they might be doing a battery deal on these, so you can buy more batteries. So, you know, you'll be out for a good while. One issue that people have brought up with these things, the Q141, is the spares backup. But you really don't have to worry about the spares, because they are the same as Suichi U, Gantry, and all the others in the range. You really don't have to worry about the spares, because there's plenty of spares available for the Suichi U now. At the time of making the Gantry video, there was nothing available, and that was one of the reasons I didn't recommend it to you guys. But as of today, you can even get the Pro spares actually as well. But as of today, there's loads of Suichi U spares available, so consequently, there's loads of spares available for the Q141. Despite the ropey handling, this thing was actually quite good fun on the track. Again, because you never quite knew where it was going to go. But these tyres, these thinner tyres, were great on our little track that we've made, because they sort of bite down to the surface and you get plenty of grip. So despite the crappy handling, we still enjoyed piloting this thing round. And last but not least, the price, 65 quid or $85 these days. It's not a great deal to spend on an RC. I have seen the Gantry available on the UK eBay for about 40 quid, so that is a fair saving. But I think that was a one-off. I've not seen him at that price ever again. So it's not a great deal of money to spend on an RC, but I would definitely try and track down some better shock absorbers for this thing. Right then, conclusion time. Would I actually recommend the Q141 to you guys? Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with this thing, apart from obviously the suspension is a bit junk, but you can actually do something about that. And I'm sure with a set of oil shocks, and in fact I'm going to try it in a future video, I'm either going to put some grease in the standard ones and see if a drop of grease will calm things down, or I'm going to stick some oil shocks on it. But you can actually do something about the oil shocks. But the biggest problem this thing faces is the competition. And in the 1/16th scale, the HBX 16889 still takes some beating. And if you and it's not far off the brushed HBX is not far off the price of this thing. It's about 60 quid, $80 roughly. So this thing is up against the HBX 16889. So are you better off spending your money on this thing or the HBX? Well, as much as I hate to admit it, I think you're still better off spending your money on the HBX. even though I really enjoyed using this, we all enjoyed using this actually, it was good fun. The HBX, even though it's got non-oil damped shocks, it still handles a bit better than this thing. So what I think it's going to come down to at the end of the day is your personal preference, whether you want something a little bit different to the HBX. I mean, the HBX is a slightly better all-round package in the similar scale and for a similar amount of money. But to be honest, I can't really find anything apart from the suspension. There's nothing inherently wrong with this. So if you got some oil shocks, I don't think you'd be disappointed. I think this would actually be quite a good little RC. So I'm going to stick my neck out and say yes, in this case I am going to recommend this, even though there's, like I say, the suspension isn't very good, but that, to be honest, in some respects does make it quite entertaining. So yes, I am going to recommend the JJRC Q141 to you guys, but get some oil shocks. As ever, a big thank you to Banggood for sponsoring this video. If you want this JJRC or the other types in this series, I will leave a link in the description to where you can get one from. If you found this video of some use and interest, please give it a big thumbs up, and please hit that subscribe button for more similar future content. Catch you again very soon, guys, and thanks for watching.